for investing in our group and sharing, your experiences and what God has been teaching you through your relationships. So we as CA Lead came up with a couple questions that we felt would be beneficial for us, and hopefully it was helpful for you guys to prepare. We gave them questions beforehand so that it wouldn't put them too much on the spot, but they don't know who's going to be asked what question. So they kind of had to prepare for everything, and which is good.
That's why I didn't read
it. But we encourage that, if you guys, think of something, if the Holy Spirit fills you with something while someone else is talking, like, please do jump in, but, not to interrupt, but, wait for them to finish up their thought. We'll give about 3 minutes for each question, and Chris will jump in every now and then, but I'll basically be leading this time. So first we want to start off with the intro question. If we could just go down the line and, introduce yourselves and basically how long you've been together and married. Fun fact.
I'm Jeanette.
I'm Joey.
And we've known each other for,
since 2003.
So
10 years.
Almost 10 years. We dated for 4.5 years, and we're about to have our 5-year anniversary, wedding anniversary.
My name is Philip, and this is
Betty.
We met in December 1988. We got married February 2nd of 91. So tomorrow's our anniversary. What else did you want to know?
Oh, that's cool.
Okay, I'm Byron. This is Teresa. Let's see, going by memory now. We got married in 7-Eleven, okay? Not in the 7-Eleven. Okay. Yeah, 87, right? So that's our 25th anniversary, going on 26. And we dated for about 4.5 years before that, so we kind of knew each other as college friends.
Hi, I'm Suzette, and you've met Abe. And we met in January of 01 and got married in April of 02. January of 2000 and got married in April of 01.
So I actually went into a mail order bride business found here in the Philippines.
Okay, so the first question we'd like to start off with is, how would you define dating? You can contrast it to, like how you thought of it before and how you think of it now, or just, if it hasn't changed, share that. But we'd like to start with you guys, Joey. Joey and Jeanette.
I do a love talking school. Okay. First meeting. She's submitting to my answer. I think some of it has stayed the same in terms of defining dating for me. And it's something you do not only prior to getting married, it's something that you should kind of think about as you also are married. But basically, you're spending intentional time with each other in such a way that you're just making space and time in your life and intentionally just kind of getting to know each other more. That hasn't changed because that's the same prior to being married and the same after being married. I think the major difference in dating definition that's changed for me is, and this is something I think I knew before, and I still know, and actually it's not any better necessarily after I'm married now, but the definition change is you tend to think very idealistically when before you're married, like you put on your best self all the time. It's like the flaws are supposed to be very guarded and somewhat selfish because you really don't know what it means to sacrifice or submit at the time. And so dating afterwards, if you're gonna have a healthy marriage, then that terminology of putting on your best self and being very selfish, if those things stay the same, then it won't sustain itself afterwards. So that's probably the biggest difference between my definition of dating before and after.
And the rest of you guys feel like you have anything to add to that? Or just,
I think Teresa and I both have a different opinion of dating, right? What dating is, okay. So in that sense, we understand, dating, we go out and all that. But my definition of dating goes back to like whenever anybody starts to like, it's just the two of them. So I don't care if it's two kids in the playground walking to the water fountain. That's a date, okay. But that's because I'm a dad, right? I'm a dad, so they're gonna get that, right? But you went on a date, So I use that really tight definition. Okay, so that's a little different. But Teresa doesn't agree with that one. But that's okay.
I had a friend who actually thought, like if you sat next to him and you were a girl that you liked him, it was probably kind of the same idea of that. Teresa, do you feel that you do disagree with that, or what are your thoughts on it?
Well, I never really date during my high school year, and I didn't believe that. I mean, I have a lot of guy friends, and I always encourage going. In order for me to get to know the guy better, I would rather go as a group. I don't date, even though some guys way back wanted to date and I don't. So I guess in my mind, because I don't date, in an early age, so I assume my girls should not date. I mean, so yeah, and as soon as I found my girls start dating, boy, I really get a lot of books and start reading. But but even till now, I encourage them. I encourage not to date during like high school years, or I mean, junior high. Yeah. So I still, yeah.
Is there a reason why you encourage them not to date during the high school years?
Well, yeah, because, part of it, I don't want any attachment with guys, good or bad. I mean, if it's a bad one, then what if the guy get crazy and kill me or whatever?
She's a warrior.
Yeah, but I just don't want those, so I know that, back then maybe I don't know the word blameless, but at least I know I don't have any guilt for anything. I mean, that's me.
That's it. It's sort of the don't give your heart away.
Right. Yeah.
Don't just be so fast and just absolutely. I gave my heart to the guy, and then you end up really broken heart or something like that.
Right.
You're talking to parents of 4 kids.
That's right.
So I started dating when I was 11 years old. So that's why I was a big hot chocolate mess. My definition of dating was just an idiotic definition as a youth. Pretty stupid as in high school. Wrong in college, and after college, it's finally got more realistic. I think my high school, my 11 to 12-year-old definition was probably very similar to yours. Walking to the water fountains.
Did you guys want to add anything? Because you guys are the parents of boys.
Yeah, I've actually told my kids, I said, if you think about it, dating when you're in high school is, the chances of, I guess for me, I see dating as, well, what's it going to lead to, right? Why would you date? If it's just to go hang out, well, that's not much. I guess I see dating as leading up to something more serious. And so if you're going to date in high school, the chances of anything lasting is not very high. And so I even told my boys, I said, if you date in high school, it's almost like, to me, you're almost like setting yourself up for some heartbreak, or for a relationship not to last. I told them what my mom told me. She said, don't get involved with girls until you're out of college. But I did start dating when I was in college. didn't really date when I was in high school. So.
Well, as a mom and as a girl, I've always told my boys to be honest with girls because, I'm looking from a woman's perspective. And I told them not to play with their feelings. And I also told them that, if you really don't feel that way for a girl, be gentle with them, but, don't lead them on. So I always told them that,
I think we as women appreciate you telling me that.
I gotta look out for you guys.
So Amy said you had like a chocolate mess thing of so I guess I'd like to direct this next question towards you. What were some lessons you've learned while dating that you could pass along to others?
This is what I get for not reading the questions beforehand. What were some lessons? Do you have lessons?
I have to think about it.
This is lessons for men, because I have no lessons for women at all. I'm sorry. But lessons for men. Grow a very thick skin, because you're gonna get. At least for me, there was a 90% chance that they would say no. Just rough. So, but it's all right. I'm actually still friends with the majority of the girls that I asked out on, asked them to go on a date with me. And she's gonna ask me afterwards who were they. So, you know them? What?
You know the guys that I date.
Oh, yeah.
I'm still friends with them.
Yeah, that's a whole different issue. Yeah, guys, another lesson. Be ready for girls to be okay friends with their ex-boyfriends, because to me that's just weird. I'm not friends with any of my ex-girlfriends. She's friends with all her ex-boyfriends. So just accept it. Submit. Submit to it. Actually, lesson, I guess, I'm just trying to pick up lessons, and I think what Jenny said is probably the best lesson for guys. Is dude.
Betty?
No.
Betty.
Betty. I just spent half an hour speaking. If you ask anybody who was in my senior class, they know that I don't remember names very well. But I mean, honestly, treating a woman like a princess is the key thing. When I was dating Suzette, I do remember, like, I wore shoes. I wore ties. I took her to the art museum. Took her for walks. Since we've gotten married, I have no shoes. No more ties. Walking, I just laugh. I do go to the art museum, but under protest. Princess. While you're dating, absolutely like a princess.
You don't want to give them a
Worked. No, you don't. What's that?
Okay. I saw a look on her face.
I think he also were contrary to what Betty said earlier though, about being honest.
I was honest in the moment because I really cared for Suzette and I wanted to do the things that she wanted to do, like go to the art museum, for me to wear shoes, for me to wear a tie. At the moment. Now, since we've gotten married, she's accepted the fact that I don't like shoes. I don't wear ties. It took a long time for her to accept that. But at the time, I cared for her more, and so I was willing to submit to that for her. And then eventually she was... Now she's going to submit to me. So.
I think the thing that's on a lot of people's minds is like, what about now? Like, because I think for a lot of us, as women, like, after you get married, there is that question of, what will happen? So once you get tied to them, then the shoes come off. lessons that you guys would like to share with other people for your experiences with dating?
I think in some past life, Betty's clone must have been my mom or something, because she told me the same thing. Right? Be honest, right? You're supposed to be, who you are is what your prospective wife should see, right? So sort of a warts and all. And I think in that sense, I think Teresa will agree that. Yeah, I still wear shoes. I do go to museums, and and I still.
Yeah, he said that what you see, what you get.
Yeah, what you see is what you get.
He said it to me.
Yeah.
So well.
I actually told him.
But then even now he's still
Pretty much the same.
Yeah, so that's good. But one thing that I like to share for girls, you have to be honest to yourself as well as to the gentleman that you date, because it's to me fairness one, and don't date or get married with the wrong reason, because those don't last. That I found at home. Meaning that, let's say, if a guy is really rich or really smart, those will fade away eventually. So always, really, you have to be really comfortable with it.
Yeah, you got to be willing to live with the choice.
Yeah.
This question is a good one that I'd like for all of you guys to answer if you can think of it, since you guys didn't really look at the question. But what would you say are some key Bible passages that helped you through your marriage?
Why don't you just go down?
Yeah, sure.
We can start at this end.
Okay. Yeah.
One of the things that, I don't know if you guys know, Suzette actually wasn't a Christian when we got married, so Bible passages weren't something that we really were into. And I will tell you honestly, what's that? Yeah, so actually we don't have any that really would have been a key for us, unfortunately. Now that you mention it though, we're going to come up with one next week. I think it's going to be Ephesians 5:21. So.
We'll ask you about that next
All right.
That was our wedding.
Oh.
5:21. Nice.
For me, I really like Proverbs, the last chapter, chapter 31st. Well, because there's a lot in there, and it's impossible to fulfill every single one. But I really like that chapter to sort of lead me and guide me.
I'm glad Teresa reminded me of that question while we're in the car, because I have to think about it for a second. So I thought back about our wedding vows, and specifically the passage we used in that wedding, right? In our wedding. So it was from 1 Peter chapter 3. The whole thing is about submission, but it starts with, in the same way, wives, submit yourselves to your own husbands, so that even if some disobey the Christian message, they may be won over without a message by the way their wives live when they observe your pure, reverent lives. And then continuing down to verse 7 for the guys, husbands, in the same way, live with your wives with an understanding of their weaker nature, yet showing them honor as co-heirs of the grace of life, so that your prayers will not be hindered. So in that sense, it goes back to our wedding vows, to where I vow to lead Teresa as Christ led us, in the same way that she will follow as Christ leads us. And so that basically our vows were written around that passage, and that kind of sticks even 25 years later.
I don't think we really have a verse. Do we?
I can't think of one particular one.
But I think throughout, at least for me, throughout our marriage, you have trials. you have things in which you just like, you know, I love you, but do I like you? You know? I mean, and I think like, no, I do. But you know, there are times, I mean, we're human, and there are things I know that I do that irritates him, and vice versa. Okay, I'm perfect. Okay. No, but I think throughout of it is, I think God gives me different verses, whether it's through Bible study or if I do my Devo. You know, God always somehow in His way, in His words, will remind me to love Him, to respect Him. And I think one of the things, you know, that I like is our wedding verse, which is James 1:17, which is, let's see, I just memorized it in my head. But it's about that, you know, every good and perfect gift is come from above the Father of lights. And so, honestly, He is a gift that God gave to me. So He's a gift that despite all the ups and downs and, you know.
We wrote our vows off of Ephesians 5, that passage. But one I really wasn't very particular, but the verse or story in the Bible that really shaped how I looked for women was from Genesis 24, when Abraham sent out that servant to go get his son Isaac a wife, and ended up finding Rebecca, and the kind of the details in which Moses gives about how he found and why he respected or thought Rebecca was very attractive. It was interesting, and it has to do with her feeding and watering camels, which is pretty interesting. But there's a lot of good lessons to be learned from that section of Scripture about dating and how to look for a spouse that are really helpful.
So Betty, you shared a little bit just a second ago about ups and downs and things going on like that. So the question we have for you is, how do you handle conflict, and how has that progressed over the years?
Okay, well, one of the things that we never really fight, but we do have conflict. And I remember earlier in our marriage, Phil is a typical guy. I think when he gets upset, and I remember this, I don't remember this, but I remember early in our marriage, he would get upset with me for something, but he would not tell me. I know he's upset, but he won't talk to me. So then I'm sitting here thinking, why is he upset? I'm thinking, is it this? Is it this? Is it this? It drove me nuts. And then not only did it drive me nuts, then it got me mad. I said, well, I think it's this, but if you won't tell me, forget it. But I think one of the things that we did is that I think I talked to him and said, look, I know you're mad. You got to tell me when you're mad. Man cave thing. You got to treat this man cave. I'm more like, come on, let's talk. What's going on? And I think over the years is that we learn, I think, about each other and about how to communicate with each other. So I think we've learned how to tell each other when we're upset, or if little things that irks us, like, can you put the bags away, or don't do this, or don't do that. So it's a process, and I think it's still a process in a way.
Can't you make balloon animals to tell her why?
Do any of the rest of you have any wisdom on that, like how to deal with conflicts as they arise in your relationships? Or are there no conflicts in your relationship?
I think that's a hard question to answer because each relationship is very different in terms of the personalities and how people will come to resolve conflict. But I will say that Joey and I we've gone through a lot in terms of conflict every day, pretty much.
We used to call it, we didn't have PDA, public displays of affection, but public displays of anger.
But I mean, if anything I've learned, because like we came from a really different, we both came from like crazy families in terms of like anger issues. But in terms of like communication styles, we're both very, very different. I think Joey was just like very aggressive and just wanted to talk about everything all the time and just like hounded me. And then I, kind of similar to Phil, would just kind of like retreat and just not want to talk about stuff. I think over time we've gotten better about just calming down and then talking, but making it a point of actually talking about something instead of just like letting it go towards another day or just like letting, because I think you can easily, without talking, it's possible to just let it go, but then it always rehash itself and then intensify in anger or grow. Yeah.
And this, the problem in our conflicts, and there are things that are wrong, you do wrong to me, but then pause that. The problem is the conflicts. I mean, the enemy is actually myself. That's the problem. Usually, it's the problem of my own sin or whatever else that I'm bringing to the table. Because I can't control your side of things, and I can tell you when you're sinning. You do the same to me, and you can do so in love. But then, ultimately, if we cannot recognize our own baggage in the situation, then you're not going to go anywhere either. Because if you're always coming to a conflict, demanding them to bring something to the table or change something, then that's never going to go anywhere either. Because you're probably bringing just as much, if not more, problems into it. So.
Spend a lot of time listening, too.
I think what has also helped is, honestly, is begin to remember. I mean, it's something that, I guess what Dennis Rainey?
Yeah, family life.
Yeah, family life, and it's like a weekend you go away. And it's even for if you're dating or, we've even seen, people who are dating or they're engaged to go there. And what is really neat is that I think, in such a busy world, they give us like sort of a 2 days away to really focus. And there's sort of like what is it? At least it's not a formula, but at least an avenue for us to get an opportunity to talk to each other about things that worries us, that's important to us, that's maybe on our mind. And I think that sort of helped also open up avenues of communication, because Jeanette is right, because sometimes you might get mad at each other, but you guys want to avoid conflict, so you guys don't talk about it. So it might go away after a while, but it's still there. So I think it in a way sort of helped our marriage a little bit. A lot, I think, in terms of opening up more the communication, because they talk about something and you sort of go away and sort of like do a little homework, but it's time that you sort of answer some question, and I think it just gives you that time to be able to think about it and then share with each other. And I guess in a way, in a framework that is, they make it safe and not confrontational, or at least give you an avenue to be open to each other.
I'm just surprised Teresa even married me, Right? Because I'm an explosive type, and then it was okay to always just let the person know whatever's on my mind. And so, I think before we were dating, I yelled at her. Okay, that's kind of that. Short memory, that's how she was around. Now she was around even before we got married, Does that work?
At work? Oh,
Yeah.
that was work related.
Yeah, work related.
So I don't consider those as.
Yeah, but still, she has the explosive personality,
Yeah. Well, I mean, really praise God that for the last 25 years we didn't really have a whole lot of conflict. It was confirmed by Larissa last week. Well, not confirmed, but she told us that, from her memory, we didn't really have a lot of conflict. I mean, actually, like only a handful. Because every time, well, actually last week, well, okay, forgive me about being submissive, okay? Because there are moments that I will not submit. And no.
You don't ask me for forgiveness.
Well, it's because, and I also pray too at the time when I, have to, because I know it's this, whatever the situation, I know it's right, and I actually, in my mind, I pray, and I have really a peace in my heart, so I will basically tell him to quiet. in front of the kids. I mean, I usually don't do that, but then, hey, you know.
Getting too explosive.
But actually, over the years, I learned. I actually something that I realized, which I did not realize during dating when we were dating. We came from a very different family background and the way we both, you know, raised. Because he came from a very military style, you know, 6 o'clock sharp. If you're not here, you are, you know, basically no dinner. You lose your dinner. Wow, I mean 6:01. I mean I was just 6:01 and I lose my
And that was on a date?
Forget it. No.
That's what she's thinking.
Yeah, and that's forget it. I mean, because and I came from a family background, everyone really happy, really.
6 o'clock, 7 o'clock.
No, not 7 but so in my mind, I wanted to train up the girls, also have a understanding, not so like, hey, if you are not here, you know, you are out or whatever, because that's not the way to in a family relationship. So, but thank God that over the year he also changed by God's word, you know. So
Divorce came in handy. You got to learn from your wife, you know.
So we're coming close to time, so I'm gonna, I guess we'll end on this next question. And I'd just like to go down the line. The question will be, what suggestions do you have for, like for the men, you can answer this, and then the women will have a slightly different question. What suggestions do you have for the males to lead in the relationship? And for the women, what suggestions do you have for the females to follow the men's leadership? You ready?
Start over there.
I guess I'll start. That's fine. For men, I like Abe's idea. You know, definitely princess, right? In the sense, when you treat someone, when you treat the girl you're dating like a princess, treat her like a lady, treat her like a princess. You respect her all the time. That's not just about earning points with her or her family or something like that, but it's actually a practice, because even after you get married, you should be treating her like a princess at all times. So basically, at home, I've got 5 princesses, you know? And so I want them, I basically need to set the bar, right, of how they should be treated as well, right? If I treat my wife a certain way and them a certain way, that doesn't work. So even my kids, all of my 4 daughters and my wife, they have to be the princess, okay, in the sense that the person that they will look for, the guy they're looking to date, they're going to know what it is, how they should be treated. And that's the approach that I would take. You know, guys, you gotta treat them like a princess.
And I have to tell you, he does. We went camping together. It was really cold, and he got up really early in the morning, heated up water for all his girls, so they can wash their face.
Nobody else? Just his girls?
I was freezing.
Well, for the girl that I like to share is over the years, as soon as what I learned is pray for, well, in this case, pray for my husband every day. We had an argument on first day on our honeymoon, and in my mind, wow, what am I getting myself into? I mean, that was really in my mind. It was a really, big argument. But I didn't know the place, and I can get out of the car because I will not know the way to get back to the hotel. But since then, I actually learned prayer. Only one pray for him every day. Ask God, teach me how to love him a little bit more each day. And that's my prayer since then. So, well, praise God. Praise God. Well, actually benefit me if, you know. So.
Yeah, so in my case, I think I've submitted to Abe in always being his cheerleader. I think. I actually look up to him, not as a submissive wife, and because I think he's greater than me, is because I actually really respect him as a godly man. And I think I trust my love to him. And I know he laid his life down to me like Christ did for the church. And so for that reason, just like how, and I'm not good at quoting scripture, but that out of our love and submission to God, you would do good things rather than the other way around. I think because Abe is such a godly model in my life, I can't help but just be his cheerleader all the time. That's how I see it.
So, but that wasn't always the case. I wasn't a godly man in the beginning. I don't think I was. And that's the thing for me that I would share with the guys. In the beginning of our relationship, especially with our situation, Suzette came before everything, including church, including God and everything else. And she was the priority, above work and everything else. And I think that that made it difficult at times for us. It's when I decided that God truly had to be the priority, that God had to be number one, that I think Suzette started to see, I saw a difference in our relationship, in the way we interacted with each other, in the way we talked to each other. When I decided, okay, you know what, as much as I love Suzette, she has to come second. And I think that's the thing with guys. It's a hard thing, and I don't know, some women don't like hearing it, that they're second, because they should be number one, they should be the princess. But I think the key is this: if you're a man, if you're a godly man, if you're a Christian, as a man, your first duty has to be to God. If it's to God, then everything else will start falling in place. Your wife will come second. There was a story actually about a singer, his name's Keith Green. I don't know if he's old, he's from the 70s. You guys know. But Keith Green became a Christian later in life. And there was a point in his life when he realized the same thing that I'm telling you now, is that he had to give up his wife and his children to God. And he was a piano player, and he said that he sat under his piano and just started to bawl, because he realized that he was putting his family before everything else, and he had to let them go. He had to say, you know what, God, if you want me to, I will leave my family for you. Of course, God didn't want him to, but that was just, when he came to that realization, that's when his life started turning around a bit in regards to his ministry. So, for guys, God actually has to come first. Now you guys get to go.
So say the question again. It was
for the men, or for you, it would be, what suggestions do you have for the males to lead in the relationship? And for the females, not as well.
Well, I think, like Abe says, your relationship with God has to be first. And then I guess sometimes for me is really, I think when you get into relationships, when you get into marriage, when you have kids, I think you see how self-centered you are, and how everything, is like, well, what about me? What about me? Because all these other things are now, have priority, and I think sometimes it's just it's a matter of kind of stepping back and just trying to get the big picture of where things need to be. And as far as leading, I know there's times where Betty's had to push me or gently, of course, give me a nudge, And so I think you know, having your wife pray for you is a big help you know, for the guy.
And I think for us as women, it's really to realize that the man in your life, they really, really rely on how you look at them and how you think of them. I think they take a lot of importance in that you are behind them 100%, or that you're there for them when they're falling, that you won't leave them. I think that's one thing is that what you say to them, it's sort of funny, it's what you say to them, it really does pierce their hearts. So I think sometimes it's just really watch, you know, how we talk to them, and I think that's something I've learned, is, you know, to really speak it in love, because I think what I realize is that men do really think very differently than women. Especially, I have a house full of males. You know, I think in my girl mind, and then, you know, I was like, whoa, okay, that's not exactly how I feel. But I think really, the bottom line is also really to continue to pray for them. And even though there might be things that they might do that you might, wow, what is that all about? Is that really pray for them, for God to lead them, and for God to show them the way. And I think to be open to how God can use you in their life. Yeah.
No, I think it's important, like, obviously when you're, probably a lot of you aren't dating necessarily yet, but like, just be looking, as you're thinking of like who it may be obviously praying for that person, but also as you're looking for a person, I think one of the questions, like something you look for, and I think for me it was like finding someone that you can respect, because if you can't like learn to respect, and it can't just be like respect and like an adoration, kind of like, I don't know, short-term temporary, it's got to be something that you can really see yourself like respecting as a man. That helps in being able to submit. Obviously, y'all probably don't know me as like a very stubborn, strong personality, but I have a very stubborn, strong personality, or did. But I feel like God has really been transforming me, and I think that's through prayer and just asking God to help me to submit to Him. And I think that's been really transformative in my marriage.
The question is how to lead well, and you can never. In that passage we look at today, you can't demand submission. I think Abe was alluding to the fact that it can only be given. So you can't demand it. You can't say. And no man should ever say to your girlfriend or their wife, "You need to submit to me." If you're at that point, it's already pretty bad. But if it's got to be given, then you have to be someone already who's worth being submitted to. And so you have to kind of do some reflection over yourself and how you are in your life worth being followed and submitted to, because you have already ultimately submitted to Christ and His leading in your life. In a practical way, that seems kind of very theoretical, but then look at how you relate in your family to your siblings and to your mom and dad. So if you want to lead well, and certainly you're not the leader in your household with your parents and your dad and your siblings, but how you relate to them and how you are interacting with them will tell you a lot about if you're worth, at that moment, or kind of meaningfully worth submitting, being someone submitted to. Because you will pretty much exhibit a lot of your interactions with your spouse, with how you interact with your family. So if you aren't leading there in the capacity that you should be, as a son submitting to a father or loving your siblings, then it's very difficult for you to do that outside of that context. That's where you learn most of the things that you're going to do later.
One other thing I remembered also is, I think what's also helped me actually is meeting with older women, like who are in strong relationships to gather advice and receive prayer from as well.
Is that a plug for the
Yeah.
mentoring?
I would say it's a plug for the mentorship. talk about that later. But yeah, we really want to thank you guys for being here. I'm sure we all want to thank them by. For 1 second, just so I can get that and you guys get moving. So we're gonna go into breakout groups really quickly by gender. We're gonna count off. This is gonna be tricky. If the women, there's only a couple men over here. You guys could go over there. And a couple. Yeah, you. 3, 4. But we're just gonna number off really quickly. Chris can number the men. I'll number the women, and then we'll break off into groups. Okay. Now you guys.